Okay. Hello, everybody. Dave Kincaid here with Alberta Business Grants. Hope you're doing great today. We have another special interview. As you can see, we have a couple of guests with us today that come from MindFuel, which is a cool organization that you're going to learn about. So, but without going on too long, why don't we just start with some introductions? Cassie, why don't we start with you and then we'll go to Sabina?
Wonderful. Thank you, Dave. I'm Cassie Weber. I'm CEO of the MindFuel Foundation. We started years ago as Science Alberta Foundation in 1990. Jim Gray established Science Alberta Foundation. And so we operate today as MindFuel.
It's
Yeah.
crazy that you think about 1990 in
Mhm.
technology. So basically, it's like what, pre-internet? I mean, more or less. I mean, it might have been with the military,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but yeah, that's crazy. And I learned about the organization at Inventures in June in Calgary. I met Micah there, and he was telling me about MindFuel. I'm like, come on, you got to get on my YouTube channel. Let's do an interview. I'll share it with my email list, and people can learn about your programs. Which leads to you, Sabina. What is your role at MindFuel?
Yeah, hi. My name's Sabina Bauer-Lewis. I'm the director of programs at MindFuel, and we focus on all elements of innovation and entrepreneurialism, particularly for youth between the ages of 15 to 30, and then also those who are youthful in spirit if they're over the age of 32.
Well, both are, I always talk about government. My background's in government, and I always talk about youth is a major priority for government, for
Mhm.
grants, getting them jobs. There's all kinds of funding in that space. But it's funny about people over 30. I was speaking to someone actually in BC. There's a program called, they're a delivery agent called, I'll give them, this is, they don't know that I'm doing this, but their name was Bowman something. They're a delivery agent that gives skills, technical skills to people 55 plus to kind of retool. So when I heard Micah say about what MindFuel does, I said, okay, come on. I want to share this with my audience because you do such good work for so many people. And the purpose of this call is you or someone in your family or friends um, may not know this program exists. So we're going to learn about it today. So Cassie, if you're okay, I'd like to turn it over to you with maybe an overview, and then Sabina will turn it back, go back and forth a bit, but we'll turn to you for the program. So Cassie, over to you. What the
Over
heck
to
does
me.
MindFuel do?
Wonderful. Thanks. I think, I have a great slide that I'll share. But before I pull the slide up, um, to understand how do you teach innovation, you have to understand where we were at in 2013. Um, Innovation is a very popular word, and we hear about it. We hear it used in all sorts of contexts. The innovation sector, we need to drive innovation. Innovation is key to economic diversification. We have to teach people to be innovators. But that one word is very differently defined depending on who you're speaking to. So that's actually what we started with, that one word. And we gathered about 250 stakeholders together from government, from nonprofit, from for-profit, a whole assembly, post-secondary education, and youth. And we had a 2-day workshop called Innovation Exchange. And the objective of that workshop was to get everyone to build a working definition of what innovation is and why it matters, and what we can do in terms of this innovation journey that we want people to be on to drive our economic development.
Where was that conference at?
It was in Calgary.
In
Yeah, it was in
2013. It's kind of cool.
yeah,
It's like 10 years ago for the time of this
I
recording.
know. And prior to that, we also did a survey, about 1,000 teachers across Canada, and we asked them all sorts of questions. Do you teach innovation? Do you teach entrepreneurialism? Do you know what design thinking is? Are you supported? If this was part of the curriculum, because it's mostly not, would you be able to teach courses in all of these things. 86% of teachers came back and said, no, they're not equipped, they're not supported. This is not necessarily where they studied in their own education journey. You know, we have science teachers and math teachers.
Shout out to poli-sci majors and English minors
Exactly.
out there.
Exactly.
That's me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so what became very clear was that everyone owns innovation. We can't just say, well, it belongs in K-12. We can't say that people can learn about it if they enroll in the right program at post-secondary. I mean, it is beneficial to all of society if we all learn about innovation, youth innovation, mindset, critical thinking, the need for collaboration, those sorts of things. So that's really what this program was those principles, really started guiding the development of the program.
Kind of cool.
And so when we look at what it is, and I have a slide here that really helps define MindFuel and what we do, you'll see two tracks, if you will. Our youth innovation programming is this upper track, and I'm going to delve into this, and I'll do really the quick 5-minute walkthrough. And the lower track is how does a company that has this really important program, how do you sustain yourself? And so we also set up a for-profit, which is our e-learning enterprise. And the objective, of course, is to allocate revenues from earned in the for-profit back to the nonprofit so that we can truly be self-sustaining. So let's look at the top track. So youth innovation, I walked you through how we came to develop a program focused entirely on youth innovation. And really what we discovered over the course of 10 years is pardon me, I don't know what's happened here. There. Is that when we look at our end objective, which is a pipeline nationwide, where we have a steady supply of youth innovation talent, and this is every province, every territory. The objective then is to understand how do we get to that point where we have a scaled talent pipeline, so that we minimize brain drain to other countries.
Yeah, it's funny, here we are 10 years later, and what is the number one issue for every innovative company is skilled staff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so because we spent years, being able to validate this, innovation is, it's fluid. And if you start it in K-12, middle school, develop it further in high school, and then have continuity into post-secondary. And when I say start it, I don't mean necessarily that it's baked into the curriculum, but you access youth in those age groups, and you can deliver programming either in a curricular fashion or an extracurricular fashion. And that's the thing that MindFuel is very good at. So we've moved 4,300 students in the last 10 years through what I call the gray zone, where we work with youth, again, either in a curricular or extracurricular fashion, primarily in the high school, early post-secondary age group, but we also have programming for middle school. And we first go through a process of youth engagement. We get them interested in the world of innovation. We have many workshops that are developed and geared to achieving that very thing. How do you engage youth in the world of innovation?
Yeah,
through
it's
our
it's a
work.
big one, right? Like sorry to jump in there, but I just think it's so important. One of my best friends has kids in, like grade 8 or something, and sometimes external experts come in like how to build things with construction or something. And he was saying to me, why don't they have people coming in to the school to talk about innovations in the internet and technology? And to think 4,300 youth were got exposed to this background. Like if you don't have this, they're going through and not even getting access to it. So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And this started, by the way, with the um, Provincial Ministry of Innovation and Advanced Education. And so when I talk about the 2013, 14, 15 timeframe, right up really to 2018, we were working with the ministry, the Provincial Ministry of Innovation and Advanced Ed, Alberta Innovates Tech Futures, AITF, which is now Alberta Innovates, and a number of partners throughout the province, the universities, pretty much all of the universities, as well as school districts, again, across the province. And so there's two things that we learned. The process of youth engagement leads to our ability to focus skills development, knowledge development, and interest in youth in the space of innovation. Once we've accomplished that, youth are at what we call this place of having a youth innovation mindset. They understand that real world problems can be solved, and those real world problems can be solved through collaboration, understanding the development process around prototypes, for instance. Students also critically understand that these big solutions to real world problems are achieved through teamwork. Like there's no one person that solves kind of this big problem, right? And each student team has a unique diversity of skills and knowledge as well. And so that's really what we showcase.
It's funny to just jump in there, Cassie. Before this meeting, I had a meeting. One of my good friends is an MBA prof, and he had a Shark Tank Dragon Dens day for his students to evaluate high school students' pitches. So these high school students showed up and did pitches, and everyone was blown away of the talent of these grade 12 students. But it just goes to show you, if they can get this training, you don't need to wait till you're 40 to do this, right? Like you can get started at a young age. So it's pretty cool.
It absolutely is. And I think you've raised another critical point is we also do a lot of myth busting, because students, not all students, but many students who come into our program, they think you have to be born with a special innovation gene or a special ability, a special power to be part of this innovation group. And so we do a tremendous amount of work in getting students to build their self-confidence, to develop self-efficacy, and to understand critically that the innovation sector is something they can access. And so one of the ways we do that, especially when you tie our need for economic diversification to the mechanics of it. I mean, when we talk about economic diversification, that's a big idea. So you have to break it down, and you have to understand, in order to achieve economic diversification, you have to have diversified ways of thinking. That's really how economic diversification is achieved. And so many of our programs, generally speaking, we have a 50% female enrollment. We have a 5% Indigenous student enrollment. We have a 30% enrollment from which we aggregate newcomers, rural and remote students. and economically disadvantaged. So when we look at those 4,300 youth who we've worked with over the last 10 years, that's a very good representation of a diversified talent pool, right? And when we look at the 4,300 youth who are diversified, who have moved through our innovation programming, there's a few things that have happened along the way. 86% of students indicate that they now have an interest in innovation and entrepreneurialism. So that's a critical outcome. And what we've also discovered is many of those student teams come back year after year to iterate their project. And so an example is a student team that is using synthetic biology to cause or to develop a prototype that causes rapid blood coagulation in emergency situations. So imagine you're an ambulance or a paramedic and you arrive at a roadside accident. You need to deal with on-site bleeding if there's an injured person. That's a real world application. And so what we find is these teams are coming back year after year and they're iterating on their projects. So by the time they're in their 4th or 5th year, the team has devoted around 10,000 hours of product learning. They're absolute experts by the time they hit their early to mid 20s. 6 of our 6 student teams have gone on to take their projects that they iterated on for 3 to 4 years in our program, and now they've set up venture capital backed companies here in Alberta. And so now they've taken their project here, they have identified IP production, they have attracted investment capital, and they are now employment creators in the emerging tech space, in the innovation sector here in Alberta. They're contributing GDP and so on. So we know this model is successful, and I'm going to pause there.
Well, and it's amazing. Yeah, there's so much to talk about. And so, I can't wait till you hit the rubber on the road about how future youth can get into these programs. It's just amazing, if you think about it. I have so many stories I could go on about this, but I think about high school football. I played football. All walks of life were on that football. It was guys, but it was all walks of life. There were different shapes and sizes and incomes, backgrounds. And the neat thing about getting into a school is they're all there, right? Like they're all the diversity, all of the different people are there, and it's just such a great way to open up the minds of these young people to potential careers that their parents probably don't do or may not have done, and it's just works so well. I'll tell you one quick story that and I'll stop talking, but it's another good friend of mine. Sounds like I have a lot of friends. I don't. I've only got a handful, but they talk a lot. He was at a youth leader for Boys and Girls Club, and I'll never forget this story. We were young. He was the leader in high school, and his neighbor was a surgeon who had a son, and his youth that he was mentoring was from a low income background. And he asked them, saying, "Hey, what do you want to do when you're older?" And the surgeon's son said, "I want to, be some sort of like astronaut or doctor or something." And he asked the person from the low income person, "What do you want to do?" And he said a career, and I won't say the career right now because I don't want to slight any careers. All careers are good, but it was a career choice with a very low economic potential, and it was just a shocking eye opener to us of what you are aware of as a youth in your circle. If it's very small, if you don't know about these things, just awareness, which Kendra, my sister, who has a nonprofit called Elevate Aviation, they did a big grant study on why women or how to get economic careers. And the biggest barrier to getting an economic viable career is awareness. It was kind of like, really? Like, yeah, they don't know, they're not. So it's interesting to see different aspects of my background tie into what you're doing, and I can understand why it's being successful. and I'm going to stop talking because this is really about you.
Well,
But
it's so true. Awareness is critical to driving this youth engagement. That's the very first step, and then we have to make the program tools accessible. And once students move through kind of the awareness accessibility stage, then we're really at a sweet spot where we start developing the layers required to really understand.
yeah, and the foresight to do this. Just a shout out to Alberta. If you're outside of Alberta, I always find this interesting. So Alberta, just a couple of little fun facts, was the first place in the Americas, I believe, to have a carbon market, like in 2007. And this started back in 1990, and then 10 years ago, you're talking about innovation, and you wonder why everyone thinks, oh, why does Alberta, do so well? Well, its people are smart. Their leaders were innovative and early on. So it's kind of a neat aspect from my government background about what governments can do. And it doesn't make the front page. Like when I met MindFuel, I had never heard of you. So I really appreciate you coming, us opening up the door to like parts of the world that not a lot of people get to see. So with that, maybe Cassie, unless you've got someone else, let's talk a little about rubber meets the road. People who are what programs you have that people can participate in some of these programs.
That is a great place to go, to Sabina. Before we hand off to Sabina, I should point out two critical things. So because our offices, our head office is located in Calgary, in the newly named University Innovation Hub, where we've been for a number of years now, it makes the Alberta marketplace easily accessible. And so that's why we do so much of our work with youth, particularly when we're in the early stages of program development in Alberta. But over the last number of years, we have started supporting youth with our innovation programming in Yukon, BC, Ontario, Manitoba, Sabina?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
We're coming, Manitoba. We're coming.
We're coming.
Exactly.
And then the other thing is through our e-learning programming down here, we support hundreds of thousands of Canadian students each year. Our e-learning programming distributes to every province and territory. And this really is focused on foundational knowledge. So that's the sciences and the maths in curricula across Canada. But there is a relationship between the two tracks, if you will. One is very much foundational knowledge. The other one is experiential. And I'm going to pause there and go over to Sabina.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you. So the two key programs or offerings that we have for youth is the Tech Futures Challenge. And the Tech Futures Challenge, the name is new. It's been in the last 2 years that it's been called the Tech Futures Challenge. There are many in the community who know it as Geek Starter, which had started with Alberta Innovates many years ago. But with Tech Futures Challenge, it's really looking at real world problems. So youth from middle school, high school, and post-secondary. So the teams can be any combination of youth. Some of them are from the same school or university, and some are from a variety of schools and more community-based. So we have a lot of variety, as Cassie was saying, in terms of the youth who just very naturally and organically come to the programs, and from rural areas and urban areas, which is really exciting. So they really hone in on a real world problem, particularly in the realm of sustainability, and that could be economic, it could be social or environmental. And particularly in these last few years, I have to give a real shout out to the teams, because even with COVID And most of our programming prior to COVID was in person, where the skills building workshops were in person, the meeting with industry mentors was in person, the teams would work together on their own in person. We had to go completely online. And there was just this need and this interest to continue working, even though there was all these restrictions and uncertainty. It really grounded everyone, which was so energizing for us because we've been able to pivot and create and modify and further iterate to really meet the needs of the students and the teams. So even every year hasn't looked the same, even though we can say, yes, our program's been running. We've been doing this for 10 years. It has a slightly different look and feel each year based on the teams. But the things that are consistent is that we always have time with mentors. So depending on the technology that the teams are working on, which could be within microengineering, synthetic biology, could be in coding and automation, could be in app development, it could be in 3D printing. It really varies. And it's usually the teams are taking on this new technology that when they start, they actually don't know anything about this technology, but they know from the problem they've identified that it's a viable, helpful solution or will help them, these skills, this technology will help them to solve the problem. So they really dig in to learn things they don't even know about or haven't had before. And sometimes their team advisors had no idea about how to work with this technology. So we support the team advisors and the teachers also.
What a networking opportunity for you.
Oh, it is amazing because they know, yes, a lot of good ideas can happen when one person is there, in their lair or their room, and piecing it all together. But it really is when there's that opportunity for youth who have energy, determination, perseverance, and interest, and a real drive to make things better because they're so astute to what's going on. And then bringing in mentors who've maybe been in the industry for 5-10 years, or mentors who are in the startup phase themselves and really understand, and bringing everyone together. That's when the magic happens. And that's when the ideas spark, where, like Cassie was saying, 6 startups, like for them, it was a project. It was a research project. This is going to look good on my resume. This is going to look good when I apply to post-secondary. All of a sudden they're like, this could be a business. I actually could do this. And hey, actually, I'm interested in doing this, where teams of like 20 students have chosen to continue on to create a business. And one of the teams we had this year who started off in Tech Futures Challenge. So their post-secondary team, they're working in synthetic biology. They're working with an idea of microplastics to help with the global issue we have of all this waste of fruit and vegetable packaging that is thrown away. So they're working with technology to have it that it's organic and it's biodegradable, so that industry can use it and that the end consumers can feel better and know that they're just not putting it into the garbage can. So they actually started off with the Tech Futures Challenge. Thought was, we're doing our research, and it supports another goal they have is to compete on a global level at an international conference, IGEM. But through the process, the conversations happened about actually we could take this to market. And then they joined another program of ours called Founders Fundamentals. And that is more specifically for those who have graduated from high school, so the 18 to 30, so they might be in post-secondary, or they might already be in industry, or they might be between work or studies. And so now they are working on setting up their research project into a company, a startup. And Founders is supporting them in that process with more, activities, sessions, workshops, connecting with mentors to help support them in those initial steps where there's, so, as we know, there's always so much to do as a founder, just to help pace it
Totally.
out a little bit.
And so, I mean, back to Tech
Mhm.
Futures Challenge, just before we leave that,
Yeah.
so many benefits to that, right? Like we were talking about, those are big benefits, but just like being
And
a
it's
youth,
fun. It's fun.
yeah, fun, have a mentor that's been doing it 10 years experience, and you're 16 saying, don't do this, do that. Or if you do that, like, oh my gosh, like that could save you. How many people have done a degree and are done their degree and be like, oh, I actually don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we've come back. It's an extremely valuable experience and learning. And actually, it may be career path setting for some of the students, but it's also for the mentors. Like some of the mentors have actually pivoted in their own work based on their experiences with the students. And some of the mentors have actually continued to work with teams beyond the program cycle, or come back in, like Cassie was saying, in following years to continue the work. That so many of the mentors have said, this has just given us like energy and excitement and a spark of enthusiasm, where they're like, when you're finished high school, when you're finished university, look us up,
Wow, it's unreal.
because we would love you to be a part of the team.
Yeah, like it's incredible. And so, just some details on the Tech
Mhm.
Futures Challenge, which is we don't have time today, but I love how it used to be called Geeks, and now it's not Geeks; it's like Main Street. But anyways, Tech Future Challenge. What are some details? When does the program start? How much does it cost? Where can people go to find out about that program?
All right. So the Tech Futures Challenge, it's on a yearly cycle and it's starting again in January.
Cool.
So we'll be getting those details out. The teams, it's open to every team, whether they're in a school or they're in a community. It's free. There is no cost, but they just need to register and share a little bit about their idea, and then be able to be available to participate in our workshops that are scheduled throughout Alberta. We're aiming to be back in person this year, which is very exciting. So no fee, registration at mindfuel.ca. And we have examples on mindfuel.ca of other projects that have happened over the years, if that's of interest. So Tech Futures Challenge for the middle school, high school students, as well as post-secondary.
Okay, I love that, and that's kind of a cool program. Just with I have a free grant database and free grant newsletters. I love just letting people know about programs that are available. Like all this doesn't cost them anything, you know.
Yeah,
Like
well,
you know,
and
this doesn't
actually
cost. It's crazy.
to support that, there's no registration, there's no sign up fee. And once they've gone through the pitch phase, so that's in two parts. First is the initial ideating and defining what their project's going to be, what their why is, why are they doing this, why is it important to them, and then how might they start to do it. They need to start to think about that. When we have a showcase called the project pitch showcase, and in that all the teams come together and share where they're at, and then have feedback from mentor judges. There are monetary awards, and then there's the opportunity for project seed funding to say, we know this costs money for the tech, you may need some more training. And so they can apply for project seed funding, which is exactly what entrepreneurs need to do when they're going to
Yeah.
investment capitalists or angel. Funders, they need to be able to say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we need. This is what the cost is. And
Can
this
you
is how we're going to
imagine?
do it.
Like it's like I mean, I don't want to say it's like a degree, but it's unbelievable. Like the skills, the
Yeah,
networking, the teamwork, and it's all there. And so
there's
many
so many
people don't know.
transferable skills. I mean, great life skills, but absolutely transferable skills into career, into this work sector, or or post-secondary. Absolutely.
And I'll share a nice little anecdote here. I mean, over the years, of course, I've met with numerous deans of faculties at different universities here in Alberta and in BC, and they tell me, we want these students.
Right.
We want these students to come to our faculties. And so that's another whole big sort of next phase for us, is formalizing, I guess, pathways in different ways to let students know there's an opportunity. Really, it's about building futures, right?
And just so you know, there's a conference in Calgary, at the University of Calgary, I think with all the business deans across Canada in Calgary. So just FYI, you might want to make a note of that, get on the agenda to speak to them. Let's wrap up because I don't want to, I know we're not going to go too much longer. Founders Fundamentals. Could you tell us just some details on that? I think that's a fascinating topic. I get so many people that want to start a business. Can you tell us some details on what it is, where people can find it, and just some details, et cetera, on that?
Absolutely. And it's exciting. We have a new cohort starting October 18th. And what it involves is about 4 or 5 hours of time in the week. One of those hours is in a group setting where there's a lot of discussion about very specific topics, like when we have an idea of business, can we start this? Is it a good idea? Is it really for me? We have to look at the whole picture of having a business. So we're really focused on what are the fundamentals that you need in order to start your business. So yes, you need a business plan. Yes, you need a business account. Yes, you need to register your business. We all know that. But what's beyond that? And that's what we dig into of each week. There's a different topic that we explore, sharing information about it, giving independent activities so you can really hone it into your own work. So where you're going with your business. So it's really I like a framework that gives enough background information to get you going, to start reflecting and working on your own ideas, and then to be to share them back with the group, as well as mentors and guest speakers. Every week we have either a guest founder who shares about their own experiences, which is always really lively, fun conversation. And actually we had one guest founder is now a board member of one of the,
Too funny.
from our previous cohort is now a board member or advisor to this founder who was in the program. And they met together in this session. We do it online, just so it's accessible because everyone has a lot to on the go. And then there's 2 one-on-one mentoring sessions with a founder who's gone through it, who knows it, where then they start to refine basically the pitch. What's your why? How are you going to do it? What's your roadmap? And they get that feedback.
And eligibility for those is 18 to 30. That's the eligibility. And
plus we.
Okay, good. And what about did they have to be in Alberta, or can they be in any of the provinces that you mentioned, or anywhere? Where's
currently
the location?
Yes.
Okay, currently in Alberta.
We have a great opportunity with Prairies Can, and it is specific to Alberta, though we are planting seeds in other provinces and territories.
Love it. Okay.
So yes, there's no fee, but you need to have an idea, a readiness. You're ready to take a next step. So a really early stage founder, entrepreneur.
Super cool. And then again, like no cost, and it's out there. It's amazing.
No cost.
And I hear that they're going to have someone come in and talk to them about grants.
Yes. I wonder. You might know him.
Yeah, I might know him. Someone might be coming and talking to the group about grants. So I'm very excited about that. I can't wait to do that. That's for sure.
Yes. We're excited to have you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait. And I'm so glad that you came on here. And so Sabina, thank you for that wrap. So to learn more, they can go to MindFuel, Sabina. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, mindfuel.ca. Yes.
And Cassie, I guess I'll leave you the last word with you before we sign off. Any final message to anyone listening about the programs and what you do?
2 final messages. First of all, thanks. It's been really fun, and you've asked some really good questions. The first, a shout out to ATB Financial, because they profiled the importance of youth innovation throughout August and September, and really put a nice big spotlight on MindFuel in our program. So that's just wrapped up. And then the second thing is stay tuned, because we're going to be launching our Youth Innovation Showcase Look Back. And we'll be doing that in the next 10 days or so. And so we'll be showcasing 100 innovators in 100 days. And these are students who are making big progress, big dents in this challenge of economic diversification. So stay tuned. All information will be on our website. And thanks so much.
And I think that's an important point. I know, you know, you mentioned Prairie Cans was a partnership with Founders Fundamentals, and it's good for, I think, you know, taxpayers who, you know, obviously fund these organizations to see that return, to see the impact that you're making. And it's like, wow, it's real. Like, yeah, these people come in and then they have success, they start the business. And it's like, you know, these don't just fall out of the sky. Like, it's actually an intentional plan. So I really thank you. I know you're both really busy, and you just were generous with your time today. And I hope if you're watching this, or you know, whether maybe you're one of these people who has a child, or you are in that group, or you're, you know, over 30 and you know you can get into this program. They're there for you. And MindFuel is an awesome organization. They're here to help you out. So with that, we'll close and say thanks, and we'll see you next time.
Happy Friday and happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's right.